You know what I almost did? I almost went, and then I was like, wait, wrong movie.
No,
Sorry.
those movies remind me
They're
of
like,
they're
yeah,
the same.
they're similar.
Yeah.
They're similar. Well, hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning into another episode of Spooky Chicks and Horror Flicks. We are your hosts, Emma.
I'm Allison.
We are two best friends who like to recap our favorite, or sometimes not favorite, horror films and have a little beverage while doing so.
Today we're reviewing The Ring of 2002, and I'm like, holy shit, we were like 11 when this came out.
That's like actually insane.
Quick question. Do you remember first seeing it?
Oh, yeah.
Were you terrified as shit too?
Terrified.
Okay, good.
I didn't even want to watch the tape within the film.
No, I know.
I kind of would like look away.
I hesitated even rewatching as a 30-something person.
Yes, I fully agree.
And just a spoiler alert, if you haven't seen it and don't want to be spoiled, just watch it and come back. And if you don't give a fuck, just come on this crazy ass ride with us. And speaking of crazy ass rides and crazy ass horses, Emma, what the fuck you been up to?
Oh my gosh, I've actually been diving into a lot of newer horror recently. That's something the producer and I have been trying to make happen. Now that our schedules have slowed down a little bit, we are like trying to get through our kind of must-watch list, which includes Blink Twice is on our list. I think we're going to watch that one tomorrow. And then I also wanted to watch Speak No Evil. That's another one on my list too as well. So I think we're going to tackle those ones coming up. But what have you been up to?
Well, we just had an amazing event at Creep IE.
Yes, we did.
We all went together, and as always, it was amazing. And we got to see a bunch of our favorite people and see a lot of amazing things. And we just love that con and can't wait for more to come up. I just quick little special shout out to somebody we met in the wild named Gustavo. Made my fucking day. Thank you, Gustavo, for coming up to us and just saying, "Are you Spooky Chicks Horror Flicks?" Like, I was like,
it was so cool.
It was so cool.
It was so awesome. And for today's synopsis of our film, we have a journalist must investigate a mysterious videotape which seems to cause the death of anyone 1 week to the day after they watch it.
So I rented this on YouTube, and it's the little thing said to me, once you've started it, you'll have 48 hours to watch this video. And I'm like, there's a lot of time themes throughout this entire thing. And I'm like, fuck.
You're like, shit, I'm really on the clock here.
48 hours or 7 days, I can't tell.
I love that. I love it. And this film has a 7.1 out of 10 on IMDb, which I think is pretty, that's aligned with what I would score it as, I think.
Rotten Tomatoes, the tomato meter says 71%, and I'm like, ooh, spooky ooky that they both have 7s in that score.
Ooh, oh my gosh.
And then the popcorn meter says 48%, and I'm like, that's a big spread.
That is a pretty big spread.
Meanwhile,
I want to learn more about that.
I know. Meanwhile, the original, what this movie is based off of, Ringu, got a 98 and an 81 on Rotten Tomatoes. Like, well, different films. And our director of this film is Gore Verbinski, a name I love and know because I used to be fucking obsessed with Pirates of the Caribbean.
Used to?
I still am, yes. Whatever.
I was going to say, we both be really obsessed.
But this is quite the jump from The Ring to Pirates of the Caribbean. So.
It is. And this film was written by 3 different writers. So we have Aaron Kruger, Koji Suzuki, and Hiroshi Takahashi.
And Koji and Hiroshi also were involved in Ringu, which was the original film.
Yeah, from 1998. So very cool that they had kind of some of the original people on that film kind of working on this one and keeping the lore more on the true side.
Yeah. And I got to throw this out there. We don't normally do this, but the composer is fucking Hans Zimmer.
Hello.
I didn't even notice
what a fantastic guy.
I didn't notice there was composition. like what?
We should just put that on on repeat, the soundtrack randomly one day and just see if it resonates with us.
Bro, I don't know about that.
And getting into our top billed cast, we have Naomi Watts. She plays Rachel, who is the mother in the film.
And I think this is the film that launched her into her career, even though she's done a bunch of stuff, but I think this launched her.
I would also consider Naomi Watts as a little bit of a scream queen.
Totally. She was in a movie called Funny Games. Don't watch it. It's so fucked up.
She was also in Mulholland Drive.
Oh, that's true.
And, I mean, not horror, but King Kong. Hello?
Oh, true.
Amazing. That's one of my dad's favorite films.
And we also have Martin Henderson, who plays Noah. He was probably a nobody at this time, but he was the director in X.
We love him.
We love him. He's also on Virgin River, which my parents love. And this is the most random fun fact that I absolutely love. He's in the Britney Spears Toxic music video.
That is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
And I need to go rewatch that ASAP.
And he's hot. So.
There we go.
Yeah.
Then we have Brian Cox, who plays Richard Morgan, and he's in so many things. Y'all know him probably from everything. And most recently, one of my favorite shows is Succession.
Oh, yeah. I've watched a couple episodes, but something that strikes me about him is he kind of looks the same in every single role. Even though he doesn't look the same, he looks the same.
Yep, absolutely.
And he also turned down the role as Murph in Ghost Ship to take this role in The Ring. I don't know. I don't know.
Which one's better.
I don't know.
And then we have David Dorfman, who plays Aiden. So he is our youngest kind of child character in this film. And I'm not going to lie, he creeps me the fuck out.
No, dude. He is this. I'm like, is he scarier or Samara?
He's giving Damien.
He's giving so much Damien.
Yes.
And he also happened to be in Emma's favorite fucking Texas Chainsaw of 2003.
There we go.
So you're welcome.
Little gas station kid. Long before this movie premiered, the killer video was used as a commercial. And something funny was that this commercial didn't mention that it was tied to any sort of movie coming out or anything for nearly a month. So this was just airing on TV. People were watching it and probably like going, what the fuck was that?
I also think just in general, they had a great marketing plan throughout this entire campaign.
Yeah. We're seeing a lot of similar marketing these days for horror films.
Yeah.
Kind of similar to what happened with The Ring back then. And we're going to get more into that too.
Yeah.
Another thing I thought that was really cool was that when this was first released in theaters, DreamWorks didn't have a lot of faith in this film, and it only released in select theaters because of that. And inevitably, they then went to release it in more theaters later on around Halloween, but it had to fight right against the first Jackass movie. But after all of that, it ended up being one of the highest grossing horror remakes in history until Stephen King's It in 2017.
That's wild.
And I feel like it's a cult classic to this day. Maybe
Also,
not even cult. It's just a classic.
Like 15 years later, nothing beat that between then and like that's insane.
So cool. So cool. Another thing I really love about this film is like the choice of the film's color. So if you're watching this, it was very intentionally decided that everything was to be tinged this color green to give this film like a sickly, unnatural feeling. And sets were also lit in a way so that none of the characters have a shadow. And this helped to just create a kind of weirdly subconscious sense of creepiness.
Everything about that, and based on the fact that this is set in Seattle, Washington, because it is like a wet, isolated setting, is giving like both the color and the setting Twilight.
It is giving
It's giving Twilight.
I love that. And lastly, this film was originally promoted under the title Ring, just Ring by itself, like its counterpart that it was based off of, Ringu, that came out in 1998. And shortly before the release, the title was then updated to The Ring.
So something about the title is kind of insane to me. In Ringu, when you think about the title, what do you think of? And the images in the movie, what do you think of?
It's giving a little bit of The Hobbit, Fellowship of the Ring.
Oh, interesting.
What were you thinking?
Well, if you look at the movie poster or marketing, it's like a ring, and it looks like the well that we see later.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
But that was not the intention from Ringu. The intention was like the cyclical nature of death, like being a ring, like a circle.
Oh my God.
I know. Also, ring, ring, ring. It's a fucking phone.
Hello.
Yeah.
Who's there?
I know. So I was like, what the fuck? I've been misled for so long.
Oh, I love that like deeper meaning.
Yeah.
Not me being like, oh, it's the Hobbit, Lord of the Rings.
I like that too. Actually, I don't because I don't like that series, but that's fine. Emma, before we get into The Ring, what are you drinking today?
Today, I am drinking a black cherry White Claw.
Yeah, girl.
Am I slowly coming to the dark side?
You should.
Are you Samara? Are you bringing me into the White Claw TV?
I am.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah, you're welcome, though.
And what are you drinking, Allison?
Obviously a fucking black cherry White Claw. Also, I'm drinking well water from my big dumb cup.
Ooh, that sounds disgusting, and I hope that you don't get some sort of leprosy.
But Samara drinks the well water probably too, so maybe I am her.
You guys are besties.
Besties.
Well, on that note, Cheers.
Cheers.
To the ring. This film opens on a very stormy night in a quiet Seattle suburb, and we have two teenage girls, Katie Embry, who is played by Amber Tamblyn, and Becca Coulter, who's played by Rachel Bella. And they're lounging in Katie's house, just kind of having a casual little night in. And they're talking about some school gossip and just kind of having some light, like, teenage girl talk.
They're doing sleepover talk.
Yeah, and then things do get a little bit darker.
I have one question. Why are they still in their Catholic school uniforms and it's like nighttime and raining?
I am so glad you said that, Allison,
Okay.
because something that I love about this scene in their Catholic schoolgirl uniforms is that they are giving Russian pop duo Tattoo. If you guys...
Oh my God.
All the things she said, running through my head, running through my head. Tell me that
No, you're
this
right.
is not a direct contrast.
I did not even think about that, but good call.
A direct connection.
I love it.
Something else I want to mention here too, I actually have a little fun fact, is that Amber Tamblyn would go on to appear in another Japanese horror remake, The Grudge 2, in 2006. And
My fun fact is that Rachel Bella was in A Little Princess.
amazing. Well, and excluding the cast of Sadako and Yakayo in 2016, she was one of the few actors to appear in a Ring film and a Ju-on film. So she's got her feet wet in both wells.
Oh, God.
Ew. Okay.
And in the pants. Because she's in Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants. All right.
All right, we're already going off the rails here. So Becca brings up a strange urban legend as she's chatting with Katie. And she's talking about this mysterious VHS tape. And supposedly after watching it, the person viewing it will receive a very cryptic phone call with someone whispering, 7 days.
I want to know, too, weren't DVDs around? Or is this VHS time?
I think it might have been the time where DVDs
Transition.
were, there was like a transition, but people were still like very much still doing it. The one thing about this urban legend too is that exactly 1 week later, the person will die. So that's fucking creepy. And Katie nervously laughs about it, obviously, but then her expression kind of changes a little bit. And she admits that she watched the tape the previous week while on a trip with her friends at Shelter Mountain Inn.
And she actually starts to like fake choking because it had been 7 days. And then obviously she's faking it and they start giggling and then the phone fucking rings.
The phone rings, kind of shattering the moment of them giggling. And they're kind of like, holy shit.
And Becca ends up answering the phone and looks all scared and like, holy shit. Gives the phone to Katie. It's her mom.
Thank God. Scary.
Well,
one other little fun fact I want to talk about here is that on the first week of this film's release in the US and Canada, some theaters put actual copies of the cursed tape on seats for unsuspecting viewers as freebies. And what I wouldn't fucking give to be that person getting that freebie. Like,
Dude.
Where are those? Can I get one?
eBay, baby.
You think?
Probably.
There's got to be, right?
I'm sure.
But I'm sure there's someone's dad got one for free and it's like in his shed somewhere and he gives no shits about it. Give it to me. I would love that. Anyway, sorry. Small rant over. So after it turns out to be Katie's mom on the phone, the TV in the other room flicks on by itself. And it's kind of filling the house with static.
Yeah, and Katie is left alone in the kitchen, and this reminds me of Scream. I'm not sure why. I think the kitchens look the exact same, and not sure where the fuck Becca went, but she's scared because the TV's all staticky and shit. She runs upstairs, and she sees that there's water all over these beautiful hardwood floors. That poor family.
Yeah, and it's definitely giving like, oh shit, something is actually wrong. Even like the hallway light flickers as she's sort of slowly trying to investigate what's happening. Once she gets into her room, the TV also turns on by itself.
And doesn't it start playing the Ring video?
It does. And as she approaches the screen, her reflection in the static even starts distorting a little bit, kind of like warping and looking all creepy. Ugh. Then the camera suddenly cuts to Becca downstairs and she's hearing this horrifying kind of guttural noise. And so she races upstairs and screams. And we get a quick disorienting flash where we see Katie's face twisting in horror and her mouth stretching open in a super unnatural frozen scream. And then it just like cuts to black. That's it.
I knew when that scene was coming up with the face thing, and I had to cover the screen because I was like, I'm not seeing that.
When I first watched it, actually, when we started it, I was like, oh shit, I forgot that we were going to see that just already so quickly in the film. Woof. And I have a question for you, Els. What would you have done if you were Katie in this moment? Would you have just turned the TV off and just kind of like pretended like it was nothing, or like run screaming out of the house? Like, what would you have done?
I genuinely don't know. Actually, I think I would probably turn it off and call my mom.
Yeah, I feel like I would probably do the same, actually.
Like, what are you supposed to do? Like, or maybe like drive away? Can they drive?
I think I would try to get away from anything that was like an electronic.
Imagine driving when this happens to you after 7 days. Yeah.
No,
you're going to cause a car accident right
scary. There. So scary.
But RIP. And now we cut to meeting Aiden and Rachel. And Aiden is our little boy in this movie, and he's fucking creepy as shit, and he's coloring these creepy paintings in his classroom at school, and he can hear his mom yelling outside on the phone because, as we come to learn, she's kind of like a workaholic and like cares more about her work than her kid, apparently. Mm-hmm. And the teacher is concerned about Aiden. He's doing all these crazy drawings, and he's being a recluse and whatnot, and his mom, Rachel, is like, no, he's fine, even though his cousin just died 3 days ago and he was very close with her, he's fine. I'm like, teacher cares more about Aiden than Rachel does.
100%.
And Aiden always kind of says these cryptic shit. Like, he's like, you know what, Rachel, we don't have enough time before we die. And I'm just
fine. No big deal.
Also, the fact that he calls her Rachel, I went through that phase in high school, but not when I was like 8 or whatever he's supposed to be.
The thing that I think that's the creepiest about this scene is that the teacher calls out the fact that Aiden drew these like spooky pictures of his cousin in a grave before she even passed away.
Yeah, so Rachel says, she died 3 days ago, but the teacher's like, girl.
She's like, he drew these last week.
Yeah, so timeline don't match up.
Flash forward, and we are jumping to Katie's funeral. And
I love this scene when they're getting ready for Katie's funeral, because Aiden, like, Rachel's kind of disheveled, just waking up in her tank top and her underwear, and is like, Aiden, where you at? And Aiden's fully dressed in his suit, putting on his own tie, and I'm like, he's a very unique kid. That's amazing.
He's ready to go.
I think he might have The Shining, and if you've seen The Shining, you know.
Yes, he might.
But I also think that Aiden is a grown businessman in a child's body.
I fully agree with that. At Katie's funeral, we find out that Rachel, played by Naomi Watts, is Katie's aunt, and
her sister Ruthie is obviously fucking shook that her 16-year-old daughter supposedly died just because her heart stopped. And at this point, she's begging Rachel to investigate because that's what she does. And I'm also like, if I'm a journalist, that doesn't mean I'm like a murderer or like health investigator. I don't know. But Rachel seemingly is like thinking about it. And then she goes outside to go chat with Katie's friends to get more intel. And I'm sorry, a young Adam Brody is sitting out there. And I'm like, excuse me?
Cutie.
He's only in this for like 2 seconds. But this is also pre-OC. And I love him so much. So, and then he starts to explain that Katie and her boyfriend watch this at the cabin, and Rachel's like, oh, fuck. And Rachel is like, okay, she went to the cabin with her boyfriend, who also watched the tape, and she's like, where's the boyfriend? And Adam, whatever his character's name is, I don't think he has one, says, oh, he's dead too.
So that's obviously making Rachel a little bit skeptical as to what happened in cop talk, investigative talk.
She's curious.
It's curious, and we're starting to think that this may have been a homicide. I'm just putting words in investigators' mouths, but her investigative skills are, what do you call that? Your like senses are tingling.
Yeah,
like her
exactly.
spidey senses are tingling.
I think Aiden definitely has The Shining, because while Rachel is doing the teen talk, Aiden is walking up the stairs just by himself and exploring, and he goes to Katie's room and is like drawn to the TV, and he's like, it's not her room anymore. When Rachel comes and finds him in there, like, Aiden, what the fuck's up with you, bro? And Rachel be Snoopy as shit and looks at Katie's scrapbook when he sees all the faces and pictures are like scratched out. Like, you know, in the movie where all the faces are scratched out?
Yeah, so spooky.
That's her scrapbook now, bruh. And she also finds some kind of receipt to pick up, what is it called? Polaroids?
A disposable camera?
Disposable camera pictures from the store. And I'm like, okay, why did she take it? Why not give it to her parents? But she's like, nah, and gets them developed. And the pictures are mostly from their cabin trip, but when she reaches the end of the pile, she notices that all of the faces, the 4 faces of the people there, are distorted in them. And she also finds out that in a newspaper that the 2 other friends, not Katie or her boyfriend, but the 2 other people were also killed or died mysteriously on the same day as them.
Yeah. Then later that night, as Aiden and Rachel are going to sleep, Aiden quietly is creepy once again. And he's like, she knew she was going to die. And it's like, okay, whoa, buddy. Like, why are we're being a little bit crazy?
Why is she not more concerned that her son says cryptic shit?
Well, I almost feel like, yes, she should be. But I also agree with you. He probably does have the shining. As a result of all of this that Rachel has just learned with the photos, with talking with people about the others that were at that cabin trip, she's skeptical, but obviously intrigued, and she starts really aggressively digging. She finds out that everybody died on the same night as well under those like mysterious circumstances, which is super spooky. And she tracks down their last known location, which was cabin 12 at Shelter Mountain Inn. And one other thing I want to add here that I don't think we mentioned yet is that I think another driving force to why Rachel is like trying to dig in so deeply is because she's kind of on the verge of losing her job. Like we see in a previous scene that her boss is like, well, you're fired. And she's like, no, like I'm working on something. So I think there's also that where she's kind of, it's almost like a risk it all kind of move where she's got nothing really to lose. Like she might as well see what's going on here.
But like, I don't understand why she would pick a story that exploits her family.
Agreed. But some people,
you got to do what you got to do.
She might not be a great person.
I mean, she's obviously not a great parent. She fucking.
There you go. That might answer all our questions there.
So she gets to the inn, which low-key looks like the cabin from Evil Dead. Or
like low-key, I want to stay there.
I do too, but it also reminds me of Evil Dead.
It does. It
which
does.
Isn't great, but I'm also toxic. And she gets into she goes to reserve a room. And this little lonely cabin owner is like trying to play magic tricks with her. And I was like, oh, I just love that. And he seems so lonely. A
little sweetie.
And actually in the original script or the original screenplay, he was supposed to die, which would have been like more interesting than some of the other parts of this film.
We could have swapped it out.
We could have swapped it out, but then there would be no more magic tricks at this inn. So that would be a bummer. And bitch, Rachel gets the fucking same room as the kids were in, cabin 12. And before she gets into the room, she just kind of looks over at this wall of VHSs and immediately knows that this single one is the tape she needs to investigate.
It's like the only one without a label.
I'm like, how would you know that? But then she proceeds to fucking go into the room and play the fucking tape. Excuse me?
Yeah, that was dumb. This cursed tape is a montage of super eerie, surreal, kind of nightmarish images. So we see, amongst other things, we see a woman combing her hair in an oval mirror very creepily. We see a ladder leaning against a wall. There is a box of writhing, severed fingers, a black-haired girl standing in a field facing away. We see a burning tree. Then we see a well in an empty clearing and a single unblinking eye staring back at the viewer. And a fun fact I have about this cursed video is this is available as an Easter egg on the original DVD. If you select look here on the menu and then press down, your cursor will disappear. And if you press enter, your remote control is disabled. And once the video, once the video has started playing, you can't stop it, pause it, fast forward it, nothing. Unless you turn off the TV. You are forced to watch this entire thing. And when it's over, the DVD just returns right back to the menu. Then you hear a phone ring twice before you're given control over your remote again.
That is insane. How did they have that technology back in 2002?
No idea, but brilliant.
Brilliant
marketing.
But fucked up.
I also want to say that that's alleged. I mean, we don't know for sure, but I would love to see that.
I seem to remember something like that.
I think that just really goes back to our marketing conversation. Like, that's amazing.
But like the technology part of it kind of freaks me out.
Oh, totally.
So Rachel's watched the videotape, which don't do that in the first place. But then she...
Which, like, don't.
Yeah. And then she obviously gets a phone call and it says, what, Emma?
7 days. Then the line goes dead.
And something about this videotape, it reminds me of a Ryan Murphy, like, intro montage to American Horror Story, right?
He was 100% inspired by the Ring. Absolutely.
Also, did you ever used to prank your friends, like, and call them and say, like, star 69 and, like, 7?
Okay, I have a small side story that I'll keep very quickly, but 2 of my neighbors and best friends growing up, one time we watched the film and we had asked my mom to call us at like a certain time. My mom didn't know she was in on the prank, but she called us while we were at my neighbor's house and we totally scared the shit out of my neighbor's little sister. It was amazing back then as a kid, but now I can see like that would be kind of really fucked up to do to somebody.
No, it happened to me a lot.
But I feel like we were doing it all the time. At that time, I feel like anytime you answered the phone, you knew it was your friend. You were like, 7 days. Which means that it worked.
Yeah.
The marketing worked.
Good for them.
Als, do you think you would have watched the tape? Let's say you didn't know anything about it. No idea. You don't really know that the tape is like fully connected to their deaths. It just seems like a coincidence. Would you have watched it? And what's the first thing you would have done after getting that 7 days call?
I wouldn't have watched it.
Okay.
Because all I want to watch is familiar things. And if it doesn't have a label on it, I'm not fucking watching it. And if I had watched it, if I picked up that phone, I'd be like, fuck you, bitch. And then kind of accepted my fate too.
I feel like I could see you being like, fuck you, it's 7 days for you. Like, I'm coming right back at you. I want to say that I'd be brave enough to watch it, but I think that I'm very superstitious.
But like, why would you watch it? Like
Curiosity. Just I want to know what's on it.
It reminds me of shit we used to see on like, do you remember like E-Bombs World?
Have you ever seen Salad Fingers?
I love Salad Fingers.
The rusty spoons. The rusty spoons. After Rachel has watched the film at the Shelter Mountain Inn, she comes home and we see that she's brought the tape home with her.
See, bad parenting.
Bad parenting. While creepy-ass Aiden takes himself to school and runs into a mysterious man that he seems to not really know or like. And this man is Noah, played by Martin Henderson. Then they end up at Rachel's apartment analyzing the photos from Katie's cabin trip.
I'm also like, why would you let your kid like walk to school alone?
Bad parenting.
Bad parent. Right.
All signs are pointing to bad parenting. Well, and Noah is looking at these photos and he's kind of at first like, okay, like what's this effect going on here? You know, it's just really, really weird because Rachel is like, well, you should take my photo. And they take a photo of her on a digital camera and Rachel's picture comes out all blurry in the face too.
Aren't you surprised that Katie didn't have a digital camera? Because like that was like the hot thing.
Yes, but also I feel like disposables just have never gone out of style.
No, I think they're just coming back into style.
Yeah.
And then Noah insists on watching this tape that, quote unquote, has caused blurry faces and photos and media. And I'm like, bro, why? Why would you do that to yourself? And he does watch it. And then he's making fun of it after he's finished it. And then the fucking phone rings, but they don't pick it up. And Rachel asks to see if Noah can figure out who made it, where did it come from, because he's like into AV shit.
That's like me asking the producer, like, can you like look into this a little bit more?
Literally, I thought of the producer. I'd be like, I would take it to the producer.
Like, do with this what you will, but it's cursed.
Also, quick question. How does the videotape killer know everybody's phone numbers?
I think he's got a yellow page book somewhere.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
There's some sort of automation set up where he knows.
Totally. So now Noah has seen it. So he's fucked.
We're spreading the disease.
Yes. And next thing we see is Rachel takes the video into work to watch it again in the AV room. And I'm like, bitch, what the fuck happens if somebody walks in and sees it? Like, watches it?
I actually had a question about this because you're totally right. Like, say someone comes in like halfway through do they have to watch the thing in its entirety in order to be cursed? Or can they watch any part of it? And no matter what, the killer's like, well, you watched a little bit. Gonna get you.
Good question.
Yeah, we don't really know.
So now we're on day 2. So fuckers have 5 days left. At least Rachel has 5 days left. Maybe Noah has like 6.
Yeah.
Math is hard. But she goes over to Noah's place and she's brought him a copy of the tape that she made somewhere, I think maybe at work.
Yeah, at work, I think.
And Noah is watching it again and he notices all of the numbers are fucked up. I don't really know what that means, but it means it makes sense. It doesn't make sense. Like it's not a real videotape.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not traceable. So I'm not sure what any of that means, but that's what he observed. And then all of a sudden his fucking lover walks in and he's like, Rachel, she should watch this, huh? Because she's also a AV person. But Rachel is like, no, this bitch is not going to watch this and leaves. Good on her.
Thank God.
Not a good parent, but a good
Watch her outer.
I suppose. And as she's walking out, she spots a ladder against a building that resembles something in the video. And I'm like, this is a first of a couple things we were going to see throughout the film that resemble the videotape.
Yeah, this is like the point, I feel like, in the film where she really starts to see all of those things. So just like you mentioned, Allie, it's like these different scenes, like the ladder or blood or a well. It's like all of these are going to come into play into real life because she's starting to really kind of experience the things that are in the video.
You know what's curious is we don't see all of them, though, and we don't get context for all of them.
I also weirdly wonder if it's almost like an effect of, I don't know what it's called, but like, have you heard of like when you think about something or you've seen something somewhere, then you start seeing it out in the world? Like if I wanted an orange Jeep and now I go out, I probably would see like several orange Jeeps, you know, because your mind is almost subconsciously kind of looking for that.
Totally.
Like I wonder if part of that is this. No, it's just fucking Samara.
Or it's both. Or
both.
Samara lives within all of us.
Oh.
Yeah, oh.
Does that sound like a
just
Christmas tale?
Just like the Polar Express. Thank you.
Oh, God. Okay.
Okay, so now we're moving on to day 3. Rachel has now gone to see Becca, and Becca be looking whack as fuck at this psych facility.
Which she was placed in right after Katie's death.
Right.
Because she went cuckoo bananas.
Wouldn't you, though?
Absolutely.
I probably just wouldn't. If I saw you like that, I'd probably just been like, all right, just take me too.
I would just lay next to you and do the same face.
So Rachel wants to ask her some questions, and Rachel's like, I need to know how Katie died, and Becca's like, she will show you in 4 days. And I'm like, how the fuck does Becca know 4 days?
Great question.
Has Samara's abilities transferred to Becca?
Maybe.
Because hot take, Samara is like superpower girl.
No, she is.
No,
absolutely.
I know.
She's got more power than we can even comprehend.
I think that Becca has the Shining too now.
She might. Shit. There's probably like a ring of just a ring of kids that have the Shining. Is what I was gonna say. Oh
and a ring of fire because burning shit. Ooh. After visiting Becca, Rachel goes to another kind of AV center. Does she have access to like all AV centers or?
She probably has got some good connections, probably just knowing like investigative journalism.
Well, that's nice for her. And she goes to dig deeper into the video, and as she's analyzing it, she like notices some weird shit within the film, and then she pauses one of the screens or shots or whatever, and we've seen this fly in the video before, but the fly, while it's paused on the screen, is now like fluttering.
And he's like crawling across the screen.
Yeah. And she fucking picks it off the screen. I'm like, how the fuck does that happen?
That scene really got me. I remember having a visceral reaction to it when I first saw this.
No, same.
Like, that really fucking got to me.
It also gives her a nosebleed, so.
Yeah.
Bummer. I get a lot of nosebleeds, so fuck the flies.
Yeah. She's also discovering some new things. So, like, one thing that she sees is that there's, like, some hidden overscanned images revealing a lighthouse that she's able to identify on a place called Moscow Island.
And I guess she must be really a good investigative journalist because she's getting all the clues and finding them very fast.
Yeah.
Within a week. I feel like the story would take more than a week to solve.
Totally. But I mean, if you're basically trying to escape your own death at this point, so you got to move quickly.
She's not. I think conveniences are in her favor rather than her movie quickly.
Definitely.
Because she goes to the library and she's just like, yo, give me all the books on lighthouses. And she picks up the first one and she finds the specific lighthouse in the screenshot of what she's seen on the video. I'm like, that's nice for you. It's not like you can command F that shit.
Yep.
While Rachel's doing her investigative journalism and just all of the conveniences are in her favor, Noah is going to buy some smokes at the local, 7-Eleven or whatever. And the store clerk is like, you're going to die. And she meant by smoking cigarettes, she's like, my cousin was 2 packs a day and they died.
But it kind of freaks him out. Like,
yeah.
He's like, wait, whoa, like, why would you say that?
Yeah, it freaks him out, and he's like, okay, whatever. And then he looks in the, you know how you can see, like, the TV monitor of the security footage in a drugstore or, like, a convenience store? He sees his face is all blurred out, and it's all distorted, and I'm like, you know what? Nah, bitch. The smokes aren't going to kill him. Fucking Samara is.
She fucking is, dude.
And he knows it, too.
Later, when Rachel arrives home after she's been at the library and doing God knows fucking what with her investigative stuff, she is on the phone with Ruthie and she's trying to ask Ruthie if she can watch Aiden for a couple days. As this is happening, she starts feeling something in her mouth and she's pulling hair out of her mouth. And attached to the hair is like one of those little piece of medical equipment, kind of where they would like take readings of your heartbeat or your pulse or those little sticky things. I feel like we've all had those, like when you get like an EKG or something.
Totally.
Or like on your brain.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. This scene fucks me up and it's still, I like could not watch it. It still fucks me up.
It's disgusting. It's not.
It reminds me of, I want to throw up saying this. It reminds me of like when you're, the clogged drain of like when your hair gets clogged in the drain.
Yes.
And you have to pull it out, but then having like a medical patch attached to it. But like, it's also like a circus, like a clown when he's pulling out all of the stuff out of his mouth. It's like that, but with hair and medical equipment.
Oh my God, it is like that.
It's so gross. And then she goes to see what Aiden's up to. She walks up to his room and she sees Samara sitting in his room and there's like water on the floor and all that bullshit. And Samara grabs her arm, but then all of a sudden she wakes up because it was a dream or a hallucination. However, there is an imprint, like a burn mark on her arm of like a handprint, which would be Samara's.
Terrifying.
I know. Also, like, she better pay for that burn cream.
That hand burn cream. Later, after she fully gets up, she comes out into the living room and she finds Aiden sitting on the couch and he is watching the tape.
This will forever be ingrained in my brain when she screams, "No!" And I'm like, bitch, you should have locked that in a safe. You should have not left it out where he could
watch it. Then, like clockwork, the phone rings. Turns out that this phone call is actually Noah. He tells Rachel, like, hey, I believe you. I know what you're talking about now. And he's fully on board. And she's just like, dude, our son just watched the tape.
And this is like the first time we get official confirmation that he is baby daddy.
Yes, absolutely.
And we also learn that Aiden knows that he is baby daddy. And he's like, bro, I get it. You don't think you'd make a great dad right now. And that's chill, which is daggery, but.
Very daggery. Oz, what do you think about the connection of Aiden to Samara? Like, do you think that she specifically wanted him to see the tape?
I think they're kind of the same. I think they both have these powers and.
Like, maybe he's a little clairvoyant.
Yeah, definitely. And like can maybe do shit with his mind, like a little Carrie-esque, if you will.
I love that. Okay.
And I think they're very similar. I'm not sure what brought them two together, but they are very similar. Except for Katie, obviously, but that was her own fucking fault.
I think Aiden is also kind of a little bit of a pawn in this too, as well. I don't know. It feels like Samara knows that Aiden means a lot to Rachel. At this point in the film, it's like Samara is trying to ruin the lives of anyone that's seeing this tape, right? So
no, it's for sure like revenge tape.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I also think that a lot of people in this movie have The Shining, including Aiden, including Samara, including now Becca.
Agreed. Also, like, can I get it?
Do you want it?
Kind of.
Okay.
Kind of. I feel like the people with The Shining live.
Foch. Do they though?
We'll see. We'll see. Oh, yeah, that's true. Fuck. You're right. You're right. After poor little Aiden has now seen the tape, Rachel is taking her investigation a step further, and this is leading her to Moscow Island, where she's going to find out a lot about the Morgan family.
She takes a ferry over from wherever she is in Washington to this island. Also, Washington ferries are fucking lit.
Oh my God, I love a Washington ferry.
Like, I'm pretty sure I got drunk on one. It was amazing. And as she's on this ferry, she approaches a horse trailer and goes to like pet it. And the horse goes apeshit. And I'm like, bitch, maybe don't approach a horse when you know that like horses are involved in this case or story or plot.
And there's like horses literally in the freaking tape. And
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
not a good sign.
And poor ass horse kind of yeets himself. Not kind of. He yeets himself off.
Well, he like escapes from the trailer.
Yeah, and he jumps off of the ferry and dies.
I'm not going to lie. When this happened, at first, I totally thought he was just going to like escape the trailer and then like run amok on the ship. But him going overboard, it was like disturbing to see and really sad.
And something that will never leave my brain is Rachel's watching this horse do this and see blood come under the, what is it called? Like a motor propeller.
Yes. Okay. I was going to mention that too, but.
But there's a little girl next to her too. And I'm like, what the fuck?
Dude. Rachel learns as she makes her way over to Moscow Island that Anna Morgan was a local woman who owned a horse ranch with her husband, Richard Morgan. After adopting their daughter, Samara, the ranch was plagued with tragedy and their horses went mad and drowned themselves.
I actually read that Samara has more powers than we are led to believe. She has all, like, yeah. So what I read is she basically fucked with people's, or not people's, actually people's, yes, but also the horses' brains to make them commit suicide because she didn't like the noises they made at night. They kept her up. And so,
like, you didn't have to fucking kill them, but okay.
I mean, yeah. And going back to the adoption, apparently Anna and Richard couldn't conceive, so they were just like, we'll just take one of the bunch. Like, we'll just take one. And so they got this one.
And they didn't know they got some crazy fucked up girl from a well.
Well, they put her in the well. She's not from a well. We don't know where she's from.
That's true. That's true.
We need her origin story.
We do.
And also, if you notice in the video, Anna brushes her hair like you'd brush the mane of a horse.
So we find out that is Anna in the video.
In the video, yes. Yeah. And it kind of all connects together. And then while this is all happening, Noah is trying to get the records of Anna at a psych hospital because she was sent there because she was going through hallucinations and it was institutionalized. And Anna said to the doctors there that the visions were burnt into her brain and basically body. And she said it was only around Samara. Basically, Samara was burning these visions, just like these visions were burned into this tape, into Anna's mind. She's like Matilda, but a bad one.
Ooh, a bad one.
Yeah.
A bad Matt.
Yeah. Which we don't love.
Yeah, we don't love that.
Yeah.
Rachel then visits Richard Morgan specifically. He's, you can tell, got some secrets up his sleeve, and he's like warning her, do not dig any further into anything about my family or Samara or anything.
Well, and what takes me aback is that Rachel brings the fucking tape. And
yeah, she does.
And she's like, do you know anything about this? And he's like, bitch, I know your fate and I can't help you. And she asks, okay, well, what about your daughter Samara? And he's like, I don't have a fucking daughter. Just leave it alone. And I'm like, dude, why don't you just help and like not have more people killed? But he does not care.
No. And meanwhile, Noah at the psych hospital, he finds a hidden video file of Samara and she's in a psychiatric session.
And when he's getting all these files, some x-rays fall out and they're kind of fucked up x-rays. It's like not normal. And again, with the mind thing, apparently she can like change x-rays or images or like burning those things into your mind. She could do that with anything, I suppose. And this is all terrifying, and she's more powerful than I think we understand.
Oh, absolutely. And as this is happening, it seems like Rachel, Noah, and Aiden are kind of all keeping in like close communication, I feel like.
Yeah, they're all doing different things like simultaneously, obviously. And Rachel calls Aiden while she's at Moscow Island. And while the phone's ringing, he's at home in Seattle or whatever. And he's drawing these massive circles very aggressively and on a lot of paper. And I'm like, why is the babysitter not more concerned? But she asks him about the house that Aiden drew for Rachel. And she's like, what prompted you to do this? Blah, blah, blah. And he said, because she told me to. And he says, she doesn't like the barn. The horses keep her up at night. She doesn't still live there. She lives in a dark place now.
That tells you basically everything you need to know about the parenting of the Morgan family. So
I guess
making her sleep in a fucking barn? I'm sorry?
No, I know. And this is just an all-around bad parenting podcast.
It really is.
Noah is still investigating while he's still in Seattle. And he's at this place in the psychiatric ward where he finds a tape. And he's pretending to be Samara's dad, Richard Morgan. And the worker, who seems chill as fuck, by the way. But the worker's like, I'm not dumb. Don't steal this. And I will look the other way. And then the worker pulls out a VHS case and there's no video in it. And he's like, okay, well, now I'm fucking mad. He literally says that. And I'm like, I like you. And Noah asks, well, do you have a ledger of who's the last person to watch this tape? And he looks at him with dead eyes and is like, it's you, Richard Morgan. And he's like, I know you lying because you ain't Richard Morgan, but that's the last person to watch it. So Noah's doing that, recon shit. And back to Rachel, who is again at Richard Morgan's house. She knocks on the door. No one's there. The lights are out. No one's there except for a huge ass centipede. What's the point of that? But that's all right. And she goes digging through his files. And I'm like, okay, ballsy bitch. And then we see queued up perfectly for us, like a blockbuster right in our front yard, is a video of Samara. So she pops that little baby in, and it's her at the psych hospital just being creepy as fuck and being interviewed. And she says, like, can I see my mommy? I love my mommy. I'm like, bitch, you fucking don't. You want to hurt her. And then she says, daddy doesn't love me. And while she's watching this tape that she's definitely not supposed to be watching, Richard actually comes up behind her quietly, very quietly for a big man, and whacks her on the fucking head. And he's like, I never want to hear this face again, or hear this voice again. I never want to see these visions again. And then he unalives himself in front of Rachel. And conveniently, Noah comes to her rescue very quickly.
I mean, we're anticipating that time is moving very quickly because, they only have a couple days left here.
I think we're on like day 6.
Yeah, we're really close, right?
Yeah.
Rachel is acting very cavalier after seeing someone unalive themselves, but has a realization about the barn and the horses keeping her up at night. She has this realization like, oh my God, like Richard and Anna were keeping her in the barn. This is crazy.
And the barn, so the visions of the ladder, there's a tall ass ladder in the video, and we see this tall ass ladder in the barn. And in her, what do you call that? Like a loft in the barn?
Loft, yeah.
Yeah. She has this cute little set, and there's a massive ass TV and a chair.
Mm-hmm. All she got to do. And they also find an image burned into the wall of a Japanese maple. And this tree we actually see throughout the film and is actually at Shelter Mountain Inn as well.
Yeah, and this is kind of a cool tie back to Ringu. And this is an actual tree in Japan, and the fruit on the tree is called a samara.
So fucking cool.
Yeah.
I love that. I love a little connection.
I'm not really sure if there was a Japanese maple in Ringu, but this is maybe a little ode.
Yeah. So Rachel and Noah then return to Shelter Mountain Inn, and through some more investigating, they discover the full truth, which was that Samara was murdered.
And Rachel be freaking out because this is her 7th day, and she's like, yo, I'm gonna die. You need to be a father to Aiden. You need to help him. And Noah conveniently gets mad and like, no, we're in this together still. There's time. And he breaks a jar of marbles they go on the floor and they all puddle into like a spot. And obviously, how convenient. There's a fucking well under the floorboards. Wow. And one thing I will say is like, why the fuck would you put a cabin on top of a well? That's asking to be hurt.
And also asking to have something not discovered.
Totally.
You know, this is like a very weird side story, but in Catalina Island, there's a hotel there that's famously haunted. And a lot of people say that the owner of the hotel killed this one woman who was like a local there that he was having an affair with. And he remodeled the kitchen of the hotel over 3 days. And people say that she's buried in the cement. I feel like people do weird shit like this to try to like cover up evidence. You know what I mean?
Yeah, cool. Very, very cool. I've been to that hotel, by the way.
Yeah, no, same.
Amazing.
And we find out that Anna, her mother, pushed Samara into that well, leaving her trapped for 7 days before she died. Just like we mentioned, this well is directly beneath cabin 12, which was where Katie and her boyfriend and friends were staying at the very beginning of the film. And again, it's a movie, we know, but why does this all correlate? Like, just because they were going to cabin 12, they just picked that videotape and then returned it to the front desk? I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
Totally.
As they're checking out this well and everything kind of underneath the bottom of this cabin, Rachel falls into the well and finds Samara's body.
And simultaneously, there's weird shit going on in the cabin. Like, there's water trickling out from the TV or like just going on the floor.
Oh, yeah.
Nails are popping up from the floor. So weird shit's happening, which obviously we know something's going to happen. And the TV starts to flicker. And I'm like, fuck this shit. Rachel can also see scratches on the walls with remnants of fingernails.
Yeah, in the well walls.
Yeah, one of my worst nightmares. I have long nails, so that's terrifying. And as she's finding Samara's body, the well door, what do you call that? A well door? Well, cover?
Like the cover. Yeah, the cover maybe.
Starts to fucking go over the top where you see that ring-like image.
It's the only part of the light that's seeping through of that cover is like the perfect shape of a ring.
And for some reason, these magical powers that Samara has gives Rachel an insight into how her mom murdered her. And she straight up they're out by a well, the well, when it didn't have cabins on it. And her mom, Anna, comes up behind her. She's like, it's going to be better here. Just straight up then puts a fucking black plastic bag over her face and shoves her in the well. Like, what the fuck? And as somebody who loves their mom, that would be a bummer to be murdered by her.
I think that would be a bummer to be murdered by anybody's mother. Totally agree.
And somehow Rachel gets out of this well and the cops come and get the remains of Samara. And Rachel and Noah think this game is over.
Yeah.
And as they're like being sentiment about what they've just gone through, they're kind of getting all cutesy and like lovey-dovey. And I'm like, this is cute and I'm here for it. But don't forget, Noah, you have a girlfriend at home.
Did you believe, Alice, for even a second that this might have been the end of the curse? Or did you think there has to be more?
Well, my horror-loving brain was like, there has to be more. But also my actual brain was like, we still have about 30 minutes left in this movie.
Without knowing the time of this film, though, I feel like they did a good job of making it kind of seem like maybe it was wrapped. Because I feel like a lot of horror films, there's the problem. And then usually, let's say it's a supernatural entity like Samara is. It's usually like, oh, okay, once we find out a little bit more about why they did X, Y, Z, it's almost like their spirit can kind of be finally like laid to rest. So I could see how in this film, maybe people that are seeing it for the very first time are like, oh yeah, okay, like things are cool. Like people have discovered how Samara passed and now her spirit can go and move on. Like she has no more unfinished business. But then I love that it's like, nope, there's still a lot of shit happening.
It reminds me of Ghost Ship when we think we're like,
yes,
Katie's spirit's released, but then we get that twist ending.
Thank you. I was trying to think of an example like off the top of my head. So that's good.
But I love a twist ending. So fuck yeah.
Rachel and Noah come back to be with Aiden. And everyone goes to sleep. And that night, Aiden wakes up in terror. he's saying some kind of crazy things to Rachel and none of it's really making sense. But then like a couple of things that he said, for instance, is you weren't supposed to help her and she never sleeps.
And I'm like, okay, little boss bro, you little 47-year-old in a tiny man's body. Like, why didn't you tell your mom that she wasn't to be trusted? Like, or she wasn't a safe person to help save?
Totally.
You should have told her up top and then we could have like wrapped this up.
Noah is back at his apartment at this time, and he is about to suffer the final stage of the curse. While he's in the apartment, his TV turns on by itself, and Samara crawls out of the well within the TV and then out of the screen into his apartment.
Is it me or did I think that she crawled out of TVs way more in this movie? Or is that just because of Scary Movie 3 or 4, whatever it was?
It might be because of Scary Movie.
Okay.
They're blending together.
I thought she crawled out of TVs way more.
And Samara comes up to him and stares at him very intensely, and this kills him instantly.
And just a little continuity error that we love. While Samara's looking at him and he's walking backwards and trying to avoid her, he's barefoot. And then he falls and then gets back up. He's wearing flip-flops.
Oh, that's funny. I never noticed that.
He's wearing like rainbows.
Little rainbows.
Yeah. Yep. And while all this is happening, Rachel is trying to call him and be like, yo, Aiden just told me that she's basically evil and she tries to drive to save him, but RIP. And another weird thing here is like while Rachel's in the apartment and sees Noah's dead ass fucked up face, his girlfriend comes in and she doesn't even warn him. She just bounces.
Bummer. I think at this point, too, in the film is where Rachel is finally realizing it seems that the only way to survive is to make a copy of the tape and then show it to someone else.
Yeah, basically she tries to burn it and she's like, why me? Why me? And girl, I'm like, you lucky bitch. Don't say why me, like you lucky. But then she realizes I made a copy. He didn't. So then she's like, oh. And also this is like It Follows.
Yes. Even Smile is kind of similar.
It's like pass it along.
I think it's such an interesting trope because if you think about it, it's like this chain could go on for
forever,
long, right? As someone, let's say you and I, where we see the tape, we make a copy, we pass it on to someone else. It's like if we keep making copies and copies, eventually it's going to get to people that we don't know at all, right? So it takes sort of the responsibility off of that first person that like watched it or that participated or whatever it might be. So I think that's like also kind of interesting because it kind of gets your mind to really like think about the impact. You know what I mean? It's like a ripple effect.
It's almost like a evil MLM scheme.
Yes.
Just trickle it down.
Just trickle it down.
Just let it waterfall down right there. But so obviously Rachel has figured this out and then she helps Aiden make a copy so then he can now kill someone else. And he says, what happens to the person we show it to? And that's kind of where it ends.
And then Fiend, that's going to set us up for more movies down the line. But anyways.
For sure. And I haven't seen The Ring 2 or Rings, so don't know.
Yeah. Als, did you think that this was scary?
So this movie still fucking scares me to some degree. I think the first 10 minutes scare me the most. And then I could cut out about 45 minutes of unnecessary shit. And then I get into the interesting stuff where it's like the little spin at the end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I still have to cover my eyes in some scenes. And I tried to watch this with Kevin and he was like, oh, hell no. And it's like nice to know that basically all millennials were traumatized by this movie.
This film still scares me to this day. I was actually going to watch it again last night, and I told the producer that I don't think I could watch it like right before bed.
Oh, I didn't watch it. I had to watch it in daytime every time.
I think I need to watch it in daytime. One of the things that still gets me is the actual videotape itself. Creeps me the fuck out.
In what way?
It's just so creepy to me. It just scares me.
Well, I'm like, why did Samara pick this medium to curse people with? Couldn't she just use their brains? But I read that she has so many powers to like fuck your mind and your body up.
An evil Matilda, just like you said.
An evil Matilda. Oh, gosh.
Truly.
Now I just want to talk to Miss Honey and get a little hug and...
I'll have a light
little
cereal breakfast and go to the library.
Get a chocolate treat.
Oh. And then go to the chokey. Oh, sorry.
Oh, God.
What was your favorite scene?
I think I like the opening scene the most because it's pretty iconic and has been replicated in different ways throughout different films. Obviously, there's like the scary. What is the one you like? Scary Movie.
Scary Movie.
And they do that a lot in this, or they do that a lot in Scary Movie, and then they also do it in Scream 4, I believe, and kind of replicate it a couple times. And I think it's so iconic and scary at the same time. But I like the ending too. I just love a twist. What's yours?
I think my favorite scene is Noah's passing. I just love seeing Samara come out of the TV. I think that previously any other scene that we saw of people dying just truly wasn't like as scary to me for some reason. But like this scene with Noah, because I have an attachment to him as a character that has like developed a little bit, not a lot, but he's developed a little bit throughout like the story. And then seeing his death is just like, oh, it just gets me every time.
That's so interesting because I like the other deaths more than his because I'm like, I don't know.
TV, classic.
Classic. It's giving Stu Mocker. What do you want from me? No, and I hadn't watched this since it came out probably, and I still was scared. But again, the runtime be too long for a 30-something-year-old.
There's a lot in the middle that kind of could either go so quickly or just you didn't need a lot of it. So,
but good for them. Bravo.
Good, yeah, good for them.
And I think they did a good job at scaring an audience, like because it's kept an impact in our minds.
Absolutely, to this day.
Yep.
Yeah. Thank you guys for tuning into another episode of Spooky Chicks and Horror Flicks. If you would like to follow us on social media, you can find us at Spooky Chicks and Horror Flicks on Instagram and TikTok. And we also have a Patreon if you would like to support the podcast and join our little community and family over there. Also, if you are enjoying the podcast, please feel free to give us a 5-star rating wherever you listen, or simply just tell a friend that you think would love our little horror pod that we have. Allie, you want to take us out?
I will take us out just like Samara takes everybody else out.
Fuck.
So if you hear about a cursed video that kills you, maybe don't fucking watch it. But if you do watch a cursed video, show it to someone you hate. And stay spooky fuckers.